Hi everyone, how are you? I'm Mrs. Maria Teresa Kaing, and today we are going to read and analyze one of the well-known literary pieces in Philippine literature, Ballad of a Mother's Heart, written by Jose Lavilla Tierra. Now, what's one word that comes to your mind when you see the title? Love? Caring? Help? That's exactly what we're going to be thinking about today. And here are our learning targets for this session. Choices. Now I want you to look at the image closely and spend a quiet moment looking at it. What's happening here? What actions and emotions do you observe? What does this image suggest about what it means to care deeply for someone? Now, think to yourselves, have you ever witnessed or experienced an act of sacrifice motivated by love? Now, I want you to take a minute to think about it and then turn to the person next to you and share your thoughts. And when you're sharing, maybe start with this reminds me of, or I once saw. Okay, got it? That's great. Now, sharing those personal connections helps us realize that these big ideas like love and sacrifice are actually part of our everyday lives. Just like some songs tell stories, ballads do too. But this story has a really surprising and kind of disturbing request. Now, listen. This young man, to prove his love to a girl, is asked to bring her his own mother's heart. What are your immediate thoughts upon hearing this? Or what's the first thing that pops into your head when you hear that? Exactly. Those strong reactions show us just how shocking this request is, and that's a great starting point for thinking about what's right and wrong in the poem. Now, what does this tell us about what the maiden values? And what kind of love do you think the youth believes he is showing? Do you think it's real love? Why or why not? Sharing your initial thoughts helps us start to question the character's motivations. Now, please listen carefully, for I am about to read the poem to you. Just relax, follow along with your ears, and try to picture the story in your mind, and pay attention to what the characters do and how it makes you feel. And as I read, try to imagine you're watching a movie of the story in your head. And what does it look like? The night was dark, for the moon was young, and the stars were asleep and rare. The clouds were thick, yet youth went out to see his maiden fair. Okay, now that you've heard the whole story, you have a better sense of what happens and how it might make you feel. That first impression is important as we start to analyze the details. Now it's your turn to really get into the poem. So by now, you already have a copy in front of you. And with the person sitting next to you, I want you to do a little detective work. So you needed to grab a pen or highlighter and look for clues in the poem. Highlight the parts that show how much the young man wants the maiden. So we have here the youth's desire for the maiden, the maiden's demands, and any hints about the mother's character, even if she's not speaking that much. Then talk to your partner about these questions. Okay? So don't just give short answers. Really discuss your ideas. Now, these questions also will serve as your guide. Now, remember, if you find a part that's really confusing, point it out to your partner and try to figure it out. If you're still stuck, raise your hand and I'll come around to help. By looking closely at the text and discussing with each other, you are going to understand the characters and the story on a deeper level. Now that you've talked with your partner, let's zoom in on some important moments in the poem. Think about the big turning points in the story. So in this activity, you are to choose 2 or 3 key events from the poem, like the maiden's request, the youth's action, the fall, the heart speaking, and for each event, write 1 or 2 sentences explaining one, which themes like love, sacrifice, selfishness are most clear at this point. And 2, what emotions you think the characters and maybe even you, the reader, are feeling. So don't just say sad or angry. Try to be more specific. What kind of sad? What kind of angry? Remember that pinpointing those key moments and connecting them to the feelings and big ideas helps us see how the poet is building the story and its meaning. Okay, let's bring our thoughts together now. Let's answer these questions. Why do you think the poet tells such a dramatic and disturbing story? It's pretty extreme, right? What does this exaggeration help us understand about love and sacrifice? Or why do you think this exaggeration helps us see about love and sacrifice that a normal story might not? Think about it. Sometimes when things are really over the top, it makes us think more carefully about real life. Do you agree? By making it so dramatic, the poet really makes us stop and think about what love and sacrifice truly mean. Let's go to the third question. What are your critical thoughts on the character's choices? Like, what do you think about the choices the young man and the maiden made? And what do you think about how the poem ends? Did it surprise you? And what did it make you feel? Does everyone have the same reaction to the ending? What was it? Like sharing your opinions about the characters' choices and the ending shows you're really thinking. Okay, you're really thinking critically about the story and its message. Now let's connect this poem to our own lives. Think about those big ideas we've been talking about, like love and sacrifice. Can you recall a time in your life or a story you know that involved a difficult choice made out of love or a significant sacrifice. It doesn't have to be as dramatic as in the poem, okay? But I want you to share your thoughts on that experience or story. And how does your idea of love and sacrifice compare to what happened in the poem? And what do you think about the young man's actions? Do they line up with what you believe is right? Now, if you're comfortable sharing, please do. Remember, it's okay if you don't want to share a personal story, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the values part. Well, what's important to you when it comes to love and sacrifice? Now, connecting the poem to our own lives helps us understand the real world meaning of these powerful themes. So, thank you for sharing those personal stories and values. And for your homework, I want you to do a little more thinking and writing about this poem. Now, write a short reflection, 1 to 2 paragraphs on the poem. And in your reflection, consider the following: how your own understanding of love and sacrifice connects with the poem. 2, your critical thoughts about the choices made by the youth and the maiden. And 3, what you think the poet ultimately wants us to consider about love, sacrifice, and the bond between a mother and child. So think of this as your chance to have a conversation with the poem itself. What would you tell the poet about how you felt reading it? So this reflection will help you solidify your understanding of the poem's important messages. That ends our session. I hope you learn a valuable lesson from the discussion. Thank you and have a good day.